The film opens with glowing fissures spreading across the earth, glowing red against the darkness. From them, multiple classes of demons crawl upward, hulking Oni-like figures with tusks and clubs, twisted trickster creatures with bulging eyes, and Guima's hat-wearing enforcers. These cracks function as portals, jagged and vein-like, feeding the scene with instability. In Korean folklore, unnatural breaks in the ground often symbolize the presence of restless spirits or gateways to the underworld. Shamanic traditions treated earthquakes, eruptions, or fissures as signs that the balance between realms had collapsed. The demonic cracks echo that imagery, uncontrolled ruptures where chaos literally bleeds into the human world. Visually, the first Hanmoon is shown as flowing arcs of blue light expanding outward from the three original hunters. The lines ripple across the ground and rise up the walls of nearby houses, enclosing the entire village in a protective shell. The formation is not mechanical but organic, curving like waves or currents, surrounding the people gathered in ritual. This imagery directly references Korean shamanic good rituals, where song, drumming, and dance were believed to create protective barriers against evil spirits. The hunters' synchronized movement mirrors the collective rhythm of these ceremonies. The choice of blue is significant. In the Korean obangsek, or five-element color system, blue represents life, growth, and the balance between heaven and earth. Thematically, this establishes the Hanmoon as a seal created not by force but by harmony and performance. It visualizes protection as something communal and cultural, echoing how real-world rituals relied on collective unity for spiritual power. As the Hanmoon passes from one era to the next, its patterns don't just live in the seal, they flow into the hunters themselves. Each new trio of defenders carries the visual imprint of their time, fusing fashion with spiritual duty. In the 1920s and 30s, we see hunters in flapper-inspired garments. The shimmering fabrics and bold accessories reflect Korea's brief moment of modernist experimentation under colonial tension. Their outfits, while glamorous, are laced with luminous markings, a reminder that even amid Jazz-age freedom, the burden of protecting humanity never left them. By the mid-20th century, the next trio appears in fitted dresses that mirror Korea's post-war decades. Clean lines and muted tones echo a society rebuilding itself, where outward conformity concealed an inner fight for survival. The subtle glowing motifs stitched into their uniforms signal that the Hanmoon's strength persisted even in an era of austerity. Fast forward to the 1960s and 70s. A hunter trio radiates bold colors, geometric patterns, and youth culture energy. These reflect Korea's rapid modernization and the spread of global pop culture. Yet behind the playful silhouettes, their clothing still carries the encoded Hanmoon lines, anchoring them to an ancient responsibility even as the world modernized around them. Finally, in the modern age, the hunters' outfits become sleek and performance-ready, almost indistinguishable from today's K-pop idols. Their clothes embrace light, holographic effects, and clean movement-friendly designs. The markings here are faint but ever-present, showing that even in the era of mass media and spectacle, the hunters remain bound to the seal that has defined every generation before them. The costumes make one truth clear: while human culture changes, the patterns remain. The hunters adapt their appearance to each age, but the Hanmoon's imprint ensures they are always recognizable. Threads of duty woven across centuries. At one point in the film, we see an imagined version of the Hanmoon, shimmering in radiant gold, stretching like waves across the entire Korean peninsula. This is Celine's vision, her promise of a final, perfect seal that will lock demons away forever. Visually, the pattern is fluid but rigid, a grid of golden currents that blanket the land. It's clean, controlled, and absolute, a sharp contrast to the multicolored living vibrancy of the Hanmoon that eventually replaces it. Culturally, the use of gold is no accident. In Korean history, gold has always symbolized purity, power, and divine order. From the golden crowns of the Silla kingdom to the gilded ornaments found in royal tombs, gold was tied to rulers and their mandate to maintain cosmic balance. In this sense, Celine's golden Hanmoon draws from a real cultural archetype, the idea of a flawless, unshakable barrier created by authority. But the symbolism cuts deeper. Gold can also represent corruption and rigidity when used in excess. In Korean folklore, structures built too perfectly, without flaws or flexibility, were seen as vulnerable to collapse because they lacked harmony with the natural order. And that's exactly what happens here. The golden Hanmoon is a false ideal. Instead of protecting humanity, it becomes a tool of manipulation, a rigid, lifeless vision imposed on the hunters. In short, the golden Hanmoon isn't just a visual upgrade, it's a cultural statement, a seal that looks flawless, but one that misunderstands balance, harmony, and the living patterns that keep the world whole. In the film, each member of Huntrix wields a weapon pulled directly from the Hanmoon's patterns, glowing, inscribed and alive with shifting energy. We see Mira's curved blade, Zoe's ritual throwing knives, and Rumi's sword, each marked with luminous patterns that look more like currents than static carvings. Visually, these weapons are striking. They don't just shine, they pulse. The engravings ripple like calligraphy drawn in light, as if the Hanmoon itself is flowing through them. This design choice links the weapons to the protective seal, reminding us that the hunters are extensions of the barrier itself, living conduits of balance. Historically, this ties directly into Korean craftsmanship. Korean swords, polearms, and ritual blades were often engraved with protective inscriptions or geomantic symbols, believed to channel energy against evil. In fact, inscriptions of flowing waves, dragons, or even abstract linework appear on Hosan-era blades and armor, meant not just for decoration but as spiritual shields. By giving Huntrix weapons these glowing wave-like patterns, the film places them firmly in that tradition. Tools of combat that are also tools of spiritual alignment. They're not just weapons, they're guardians made tangible. And the fact that they come directly from the Hanmoon means the girls aren't simply fighting with steel, they're wielding the harmony of their ancestors. Each member of Huntrix has a specific pattern on their respective weapon that holds its own cultural and historical relevance. For a detailed description and breakdown of these patterns and more on the weapons of K-pop demon hunters, click the info card on the screen or the link in the description. Jinu's face and body are carved with jagged, lightning-like lines that glow violet against his skin. Unlike the flowing curves of the Hanmoon, his markings look fractured, broken, like cracks in stone letting corruption bleed through. These aren't just stylistic, they echo two layers of Korean symbolism. In Korean folklore, demons and evil spirits often bear visible scars or brands as proof of their corruption. Jinu's marks function like runes of enslavement, not his own identity, but signs of the control Guima exerts over him. The fact that they don't flow smoothly, but instead break into angular shards, underscores his fractured soul. Where the Hanmoon creates protective concentric waves, Jinu's body is etched with corrupted currents. His patterns resemble inverted talismanic writing, or bujak. Instead of repelling evil, they bind him to it. It's a visual storytelling cue. He is a mirror of the heroes, marked by the same cosmic energy, but twisted into a prison. On screen, when the camera lingers on his glowing yellow eyes and these jagged violet streaks, it suggests both menace and tragedy. He is a soul marked by shame, forced into the role of a demon rather than a protector. Rumi's body is veined with jagged purple markings that crawl up her arms, shoulders, and neck. They're similar to Jinu's fractured lines, but on her, they're presented differently. They're not fully hers, they're an imposed identity. When the camera lingers on her downcast eyes and folded arms, the patterns read like scars she's been told to hide. Culturally, these markings echo two symbolic layers. First, the stigma of Han. In Korean culture, Han is the idea of collective grief, injustice, and unresolved resentment. Rumi's patterns embody this. They are visual shame, inherited through no fault of her own. She carries them the way marginalized people in Korean history carried visible signs of dishonor or otherness, marked as outcasts. The second layer is that of twisted protection talismans. The geometric look of her markings resembles corrupted bujak, or protective talismans. Where proper talismans repel demons, hers seem to invite that stigma, branding her as tainted. It flips the role of sacred symbols. What should protect now becomes a curse. In the story, these marks symbolize how she's judged by both humans and demons, two other for either side. They're a visual metaphor for internalized shame, patterns she didn't choose but that define how the world sees her. Later, when she evolves into her no-shame form with pearlescent rainbow markings, these jagged scars are rewritten into something radiant, showing that her curse was never corruption, but untapped power. After Rumi is exposed as a demon before the whole world, and her shame is on full display, we see the Hanmoon not as a protective barrier, but as a weaponized wound. The once stable lines of the barrier warp into violent streaks of glowing magenta, almost like bleeding veins across the building's surface. Instead of flowing harmoniously, the lines twist and fray, spilling sparks of corrupted energy. Mira and Zoe stand dwarfed before it, the two hunters powerless as the very system meant to defend humanity now becomes its own vulnerability. Historically, this collapse echoes Korean folktales of broken pacts with spirits. In shamanistic tradition, balance between the human and spiritual realms must be carefully maintained. When violated, protection talismans or sacred boundaries lose their power, and may even turn on their keepers. The corrupted Hanmoon visually dramatizes that moment of betrayal, a guardian structure becoming indistinguishable from the demonic cracks it was built to contain. Culturally, its jagged neon waves evoke images of Hanja talisman scripts defaced or rewritten, as if the spell has been reversed. Where the first Hanmoon symbolized unity and harmony, this corrupted version symbolizes division and public shame. It collapses in the same moment Huntrix does, mirroring how Korea's own history has moments where cultural unity fractured under pressure, allowing outside forces to exploit the weakness. This pattern is more than broken lines. It's a commentary on how even sacred protections can be corrupted if the people behind them lose faith in one another. After Rumi accepts her demon half and Mira and Zoe embrace her for all she is, Huntrix stands in their transformed stage uniforms, gleaming white and pearlescent trimmed with gold, and alive with glowing spiral motifs across their sleeves and torsos. Unlike the jagged cracks of demonic corruption or the rigid wavelines of the Hanmoon, these spirals radiate softness and balance. Mira and Zoe's patterns in particular are reminiscent of Samtajek designs, the triple swirls seen in traditional Korean art, Buddhist temples, and shamanic ritual objects. These motifs represent the interconnection of heaven, earth, and humanity. A reminder that true strength doesn't come from domination, but from harmony. The uniforms themselves feel like a fusion of idle glamour and sacred regalia. The gold epaulets and tassels evoke both military precision and royal dignity, while the swirling motifs recall the protective talismans once worn in Korean shamanic rites. Historically, these patterns tie back to the idea that music, rhythm, and art could bridge the human and spiritual realms. By singing and dancing in these magically imbued costumes, Huntrix literally channels their cultural heritage into a modern K-pop battlefield. Visually, the contrast is deliberate. Rumi's arms still bear the jagged shame patterns of her demon mark, but Mira and Zoe wear spirals that flow and curve, suggesting acceptance, protection, and the rewriting of their bond as a trio. In other words, the uniforms themselves are a metaphor. Shame and fracture can be transformed into artistry and harmony when trust is restored. Culturally, these patterns echo the Buchachim fan dance and shamanic healing rituals, where swirling movements and circular designs dispel negativity. Huntrix's new look isn't just stylish, it's the embodiment of Korea's long tradition of using performance as a weapon against darkness. During This Is What It Sounds Like, Rumi's body transforms. The jagged, shame-born demon markings that once branded her as cursed begin to shimmer and dissolve into iridescent, rainbow-toned lines across her skin. These new patterns don't look cracked or fractured. They flow like living light, blending pinks, blues, and golds in a way that resembles mother-of-pearl lacquerware or najeon chilgi, one of Korea's most prized traditional crafts. The symbolism is striking. Where her demon patterns marked her as something broken and corrupted, her new markings evoke purity, artistry, and transcendence. In Korean tradition, pearlescent and rainbow effects are often associated with divine harmony, seen in Buddhist iconography, royal garments embroidered with iridescent silks, and even in shamanic rituals where iridescent cloth was believed to attract benevolent spirits. Culturally, this transformation reflects a shift from Han, the uniquely Korean concept of generational sorrow and unresolved grief, to Hum, a state of joyous release, creativity, and communal uplift. The moment the fans begin singing with her, the shame that isolated her is transmuted into power that unites. Visually, the glowing rainbow across her skin mirrors both the final neon moon and the promise of renewal. She is no longer branded by Guima's corruption. Instead, her body itself becomes a sacred vessel of protection, artistry, and freedom. This pattern is the film's deepest statement. Shame can be alchemized into beauty when accepted and shared. Rumi doesn't erase her past, she reclaims it, turning the very marks that once bound her into luminous proof of her liberation. When Rumi channels Jinu's soul and her four-tiger evil slayer transforms, the weapon reshapes into a massive curved blade engraved with intricate glowing motifs. Up close, these aren't random lines. They resemble the stylized scales and mane of the Haechi, also called Haechi, the Korean mythological lion dog known as the guardian of justice. The Haechi has deep cultural roots. Stone statues of the creature still stand outside palaces like Gyeongbokgung in Seoul, placed there to ward off disasters, especially fire. Folklore describes the Haechi as a perfect judge of right and wrong. It was said to headbutt liars or corrupt officials, literally knocking dishonor into the open. Its image became a protector not only of buildings, but of moral order itself. Visually, the Haechi's patterns blaze across Rumi's blade like living armor. Against the backdrop of Guima's hellish fire, red waves of demonic corruption pouring into the world, her weapon radiates an opposite force, icy blue and pearlescent justice. The engravings almost breathe as she swings, like the Haechi itself has taken residence in her sword. Symbolically, this moment ties together the themes of inheritance and transformation. The four tigers' sword represented raw destructive power controlled through duty. The Haechi blade represents judgment, protection, and renewal. By wielding it, Rumi doesn't just fight demons physically. She becomes the arbiter of truth, cutting through deception and burning shame with the authority of Korean myth. The contrast is deliberate. Guima is fueled by corrupt shame and unquenchable hunger. Rumi's blade, with its Haechi engravings, is the exact counterweight, a weapon designed to extinguish fire, guard the innocent, and ensure justice prevails. In the film's climax, the stadium erupts with streams of rainbow light as the fans join in song. Rumi's patterns shift from shame to radiant pearlescence, and the Hanmoon itself transforms. Instead of the original blue lines of the first seal, or the corrupted pink waves of Guima's influence, the rainbow Hanmoon washes across Seoul in multicolored bands. It doesn't just hover over the city, it pulses outward, alive, fed by the collective will of everyone present. This echoes the Korean good ritual, where shamans don't perform alone. The entire community sings, dances, and participates to drive out harmful spirits. The rainbow Hanmoon reframes protection, not as a solitary act of the hunters, but as a communal ritual where fans and idols share the responsibility of balance. The rainbow spectrum ties into the 5 traditional Korean colors, or a bangsak: blue, red, yellow, white, black, each symbolizing directions, elements, and cosmic balance. When expanded into rainbow hues, it suggests harmony on a global, inclusive scale, stretching beyond Korea's borders. It also mirrors the K-pop fandom phenomenon, where fans are not passive spectators, but active participants in creating an idol's power and legacy. The rainbow Hanmoon literalizes this. The fans' voices and emotions generate the energy that saves the world. Rumi's transformation into iridescent patterns is inseparable from this. The rainbow Hanmoon is only possible once shame and isolation is replaced with pride and unity. This makes the seal stronger than Celine's golden Hanmoon vision, because instead of perfection imagined from above, it's messy, colorful, and real, born from collective imperfection. The rainbow Hanmoon marks the true shift in the mythology, from ancient seals imposed by chosen hunters, to a living barrier powered by shared identity. It's no longer about walls holding demons out, but about a people united so strongly that demonic influence can't take root in the first place.